Good afternoon, everybody. This is the webinar for introducing you to the MIDIH project open call number 1. I'm Sergio Gusmeroli from engineering, and I'm the technical coordinator of the project. I believe Susanne, Susanne Kürer, who is from EAT Digital, is the coordinator. Would you like to say some intro words, Susanne? Are you there?
Hi, Sergio. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I would like to welcome everyone. I would like to thank you for the interest in our open call. We are a quite interesting and ambitious project, and I would like to leave the floor to Sergio to introduce our nice project and the opportunities you can have with the open call.
Okay, thank you, Susanne. The content of the webinar is in these seven bullet points. There is somebody who could be muted, please. Okay. First of all, which is the background of the MIDIH project? Inovalia, could you identify who is noisy? Okay, wonderful, thank you. And what is the MIDIH ecosystem? Which is the aim of the first open call? I just remind you that there will be a second open call. Then we will have Inovalia explaining the submission tool, and then I will give you some more details about the architecture, the MIDIH architecture, and the components that you are supposed to use in your project. The context is a European context. In Europe, you know that you have this high-level policy, which is the digital single market. Inside the digital single market, quite recently, which means in the last 2 years, the Commission has elaborated a communication which is digitizing European industry, reaping the full benefits for the digital single market, which we call DEI, or DEI, Digitizing European Industry. And this communication is fundamental because this poses at the center of the interest of European Commission the competitiveness of Europe with respect to digital technologies. And you know that at the moment we have, especially in the consumer digital platforms, a real dominance from subjects which are not European. And the point is that the European Commission, the European Union wants to have Europe at the center of digitizing the industry through European digital technologies, in order to ensure that every industry in Europe, in whichever sector, wherever situated, no matter of what size, can fully benefit from digital innovation. So we have digital innovation, and we have the technologies which are supporting this, enabling this digital innovation, and we have the target of this digital transformation. To be honest, in MIDIH we make a distinction between digital innovation and digital transformation, and the point here is that irrespective of the sector, of the location, of the geography, and of the size, every industry in Europe should fully benefit from digital innovation. And the benefit from digital innovation, it means not just to be able to access the technology, but to be able to use, fully adopt the technology in order to improve product processes and new business models. This is basically what the Commission wants, and they proposed a framework which is a coordination framework for national and European initiatives. Basically, you could also identify these national and European initiatives with the term Industry 4.0. And you have four main actions. And these actions are, first of all, in the top left, setting up a pan-European network of digital innovation hubs. Second is achieving European leadership and competitiveness in the field of partnerships and platforms, digital platforms, especially through standardization and some specific technology like high-performance computing and cloud. Training, education and preparation of new digital skills for Europe. And finally, something about reforming our regulatory framework in the digitization of industry, meaning free flow of non-personal data, GDPR, safety, responsibility, or data sovereignty, as one of our beneficiaries is proposing. The interpretation or instantiation of this directive or this communication in different domains is a charge of some actions. One of these actions is I4MS. I4MS means ICT innovation for manufacturing SMEs. And so the point is that it is a declination of the day message in the manufacturing domain, and especially targeting manufacturing SMEs. And so there are several projects which are in charge of this action. We had a phase 1 and phase 2. Now we are in phase 3. And in phase 3, 4 main innovation actions, which are Horizon 2020 innovation actions, have been funded. One of them is MIDIH, and MIDIH is in the domain of CPS and IoT, which means Industry 4.0, basically. And then you have other actions which are in other domains, like additive manufacturing, robotics, or simulation. Each of these innovation actions have been invited to open some calls for projects in order to extend the ecosystem of solution providers on the one side and solution adopters on the other side. All the activities of I4MS are coordinated by a special project which is called Support Action, and in our case the name of the support action is I4MS in itself. And so this is the project, which is a support project, which is helping all the innovation actions to perform their innovation activities, and also they also support dissemination, and they support the communication, for instance, of the open calls. And so I believe that maybe many of you have heard about the MIDIH opportunity of open calls from MIDIH, from your contacts, but I really believe especially from the work done by the I4MS support action. MIDIH is a project, an innovation action, as I said, in terms of Horizon 2020. The main point is that we have 23 beneficiaries, and so it is quite a large scale project. The project is built around the concept of competence centers, and we have 9 of them specialized in different aspects of CPS and IoT technology. We also have 2 teaching factories, which are our experimental facilities where to test and experiment technologies, newborn technologies, before bringing them to the production. And then we have 2 regional manufacturing digital innovation hubs, which have been selected by phase 1 and phase 2 of I4MS. In phase 1, there was an open call for regional manufacturing digital innovation hubs, and the winners of these open calls have attended a mentoring and coaching program held by the phase 2 innovation actions. In particular, these 2 regional manufacturing digital innovation hubs are located in Scotland and in Ireland, and have been mentored and coached by BINSI PPS, which is the phase 2 project in the domain of cyber physical systems and Internet of Things. One peculiar characteristic of MIDIH is that in our consortium, we also have a concept of network of digital innovation hubs. So, as a matter of fact, the project's main aim is to build a network of digital innovation hubs. And we took as examples 3 existing pan-European digital innovation hubs, which are quite specialized towards certain aspects of the technology and or of the business. For instance, EIT Digital, who is the coordinator of the project, is very specialized in IT innovation and in incubation and acceleration of startups and scale-ups. The industrial data space still has to fully develop its pan-European dimension, but the aim now is to become international data spaces and to really promote the exchange and sharing of data in B2B relations under data sovereignty principle, and this is the characteristic of this pan-European ecosystem. FIWARE is different things, but one aspect of FIWARE is the FIWARE iHubs, which is really a network of hubs. There are more or less 20 in Europe and outside Europe, which are promoting the use and the adoption of FIWARE technologies around the world. In the project, we have also 3 industrial cases, one in the automotive sector, the other in the supply chain and logistics of the steel industry, and another one in the cutting tool domain. We have also 2 large system integrators, which in this project are promoting and integrating open source digital platforms. And we have also 2 very specialized IT SME, which are developing their own application on top of this open source digital platform. First aspect, which is also important for you who are going to apply to our open call, is to know the so-called smart specialization of our 9 competence centers. The point is that you are required to identify which competence center best suits your domain and your needs, which means that from this list and from a short description of these 9 competence centers, you should identify your domain, which means if your domain is more about IoT networks and machine-to-machine communication, you should identify in competence center 1 your reference competence center. If your major focus is industrial analytics, cloud industrial analytics architecture, you should identify competence center 6. If your major aim is data value chain sovereignty, then you should identify competence center number 8, and so on. This association between your proposal and the competence center is useful for us because we need then to select the people from the MIDIH project which will support you from a scientific and methodological viewpoint. From the platform and the implementation viewpoint, then you are also expected to identify which components of the architecture you wish to integrate in your solution, in your experimentation, and this will automatically point to some of the beneficiaries of the MIDIH project. So, as a matter of fact, you are required to select your center of gravity. If you are between competence center 4 and competence center 6, or between competence center 8, 5, and 3, please select one of them, which is your center of gravity. Then, if you will be positively evaluated during the negotiation or contract preparation, then we could discuss with you and we could really agree how to set up this collaboration. As a matter of fact, your project should suppose to have a full support, both scientific and methodological and technological, from the MIDIH beneficiaries. So in your budget, in your cost, you should not include any effort from the MIDIH beneficiaries. Whatever you put in your budget is just budget necessary for your organization to perform the activities. However, as I said before, you are expected to really specify which kind of contribution you expect from the MIDIH beneficiaries. And this is important also to evaluate the feasibility and the soundness of your proposal. So, if you need scientific support, if you need the didactic factory for experimentation, if you need some components of the open platform, these needs to be specified in your proposal, so that, first of all, we could assess that your proposal is self-sustainable. So we cannot accept proposals which are not self-sustainable from a technological viewpoint and from scientific viewpoint. We could accept proposals which say, okay, the proposal will put this budget, this effort to do this, and that activity, and we suppose that we will receive support from competence center number 3 or competence center number 6, and from this component of the architecture, or these other components of the architecture. And so the proposal should be complete as such, envisaging the support from MIDI beneficiaries. As I said, we have 3 industrial cases which are brought forward by large enterprises. And so it is important that in our approach we have industrial champions which will be pioneers for innovation, and then we will have an ecosystem of SME, and some of these SMEs will be called in this first open call, and some others will be called in 1 year from now, more or less, during the second open call. It is advisable, but it is not mandatory, that if you select an industrial domain for your proposal, you should not cover the 3 domains which are in our industrial cases. But this is not a reason for exclusion. And so it is not that you will be excluded if you propose something in the automotive domain, or if you propose something in the cutting tools domain, or in the interoperability in the steel domain. The point is that the evaluators will be trained in order to better appreciate proposals which are addressing different industrial domains. And so the risk is that if you submit a proposal in the automotive domain, maybe in one of the evaluation criteria you will not be given the maximum score. But this is not a reason, a cause for exclusion. So if you have a splendid case in the automotive or in the cutting tools domain, please submit your proposal. This is not a cause for exclusion, and this could be also be evaluated in a very positive way. Coming back to the main focus and subject of this open call, you know that there is a portal which will allow you to apply to this open call. The overall budget at disposal for this first open call is 960 kilo euros. Each project should be submitted by one single legal entity, and this single legal entity will receive a funding of up to 60 kilo euro according to the Horizon 2020 rules, which means that MIDI is an innovation action, and so being an innovation action, the funding and the financial support will follow the rules of innovation actions in Horizon 2020. We expect, but this is not given for granted, because of course if less than 16 proposals will be evaluated over the threshold, then we will save the money for the second open call. And so we expect to have more or less order of magnitude 16 winners of this proposal. We cannot say, of course, the number of applications, but you see also from today which are the order of magnitude of the organizations that are going to apply. And so in these kinds of calls, we will not have 1,000 applications. And so I warmly invite you to submit your application and to make all your effort to make a successful application. And so it is the success rate is encouraging, is not bad. And so I think that if you are able to submit a good and sound proposal, this will be ranked high, and this will be evaluated very positively. So the point is to encourage you, if you are in doubt whether to submit or not to submit, my suggestion is to really submit, because I think the success rate and the ratio between submissions and winning projects will be quite interesting. And so I really suggest you to do all your effort in order to prepare a good proposal. Which are the topics that we are calling for this open call number 1. We have basically 4 topics for technologies and 4 topics for industrial experiment, which means that roughly we will, if we have an even distribution of the application and the application will be successful, we will have more or less 2 winners per topic. By the way, the ranking is unique, and so we will not have separate ranking per topic. We will have one unique ranking, and so it could also be the case that some of the topics will not have any winner, and so they will be postponed to the second open call, or some topics will receive more than 2, which is the average, more than 2 winners. And so, however, mandatorily, you must select the center of gravity of your proposal. So if your proposal is between T1 and T4, please select one of them, because this is important for us also to give you the right evaluator, and also to give you the right evaluation, if we know which is the center of gravity of your proposal. Number 1 is related to the smart product. In the MIDIH project, we have basically 3 main grand scenarios. Then you will see in the next slides the implementation, the reference implementations for these scenarios. One scenario is called a smart factory, and it is a scenario which derives from digital innovation in production in the shop floor. The second is called smart product, and it is derived from digital innovation in the product life cycle, which means especially in the pre-production and post-production phases. And the third one is called smart supply chain, which is related to the collaboration and data exchange in dynamic business ecosystems, or agile value networks, as you could call it. T1 is smart product, and it is mostly related to modeling and simulation, which means that basically it will follow the model of a complex, usually a complex product in its life cycle, and so the point is how to support the interoperability between different phases of the same product, for instance, as designed, as manufactured, as maintained, as recycled, or as remanufactured. And we require the use of huge computational IT resources, which are very specialized and specific. You are supposed to provide an environment, a technological environment for modeling and simulation, which is using part of the MIDI architecture, which will be explained later on, especially the data in motion and the data at rest architecture and reference implementation. You are required to provide the application, or to develop, partly develop or integrate the application. In this case, you are also required to provide the corresponding datasets, while the necessary cloud HPC infrastructure will be provided by MIDI, by us. And so, not necessary. So, if you also have your own infrastructure, HPC or cloud infrastructure, you could also use it. But in this case, there is beyond the scientific, methodological and technological support from the MIDI partners I explained before. In this T1, you will also have another kind of support, which is the availability of one of our HPC and cloud infrastructure, which are provided by some of our beneficiaries. So, this is mostly T1. T2 is more related to one technological aspect, which is very important in the MIDI project, and it is edge and fog computing. In particular, when edge and fog computing are used to perform elaboration related to digital twins of production components or production systems. And so this T2 is focusing on smart factory. So T1 is smart product, T2 is smart factory reference scenario. And this experimentation that we are required are expected to use the MIDI edge and fog computing architecture. And in this case, we offer also the availability of our didactic factories in Milano and in Bilbao. So, again, you are expected to use our technological edge fog computing architecture, which is based on two different frameworks. One is the Arrowhead framework, and the other one is the FogThrew framework. And this, of course, the support for these architectures is given by our beneficiaries, by MIDI beneficiaries. Again, you will have scientific and methodological support from other MIDI beneficiaries, and in this case, you could also exploit the experimental facilities, the didactic experimental facilities, so we will not allow you to go to a Fiat plant and test and experiment your stuff. We are, however, opening up our two experimental facilities in Milano and in Bilbao in order for you to test and validate your application. Again, maybe the text here in the call is a bit restrictive, in the sense candidates are required. Again, if you have your own experimental facility, if you have already set up a good experimental facility in order to test your digital twin model and simulation, then you are free to propose to use your experimental facility and not the experimental facility provided by MIDIH. In any case, MIDIH is available to provide you with two didactic factories for your experimentation. T3 is augmented reality and virtual reality. Again, this is an aspect that in the MIDIH architecture and in the MIDIH industrial cases is not so much developed so far. That's why we have put this T3 topic inside the open call, in order to complement the completeness of IT applications of our ecosystem. Augmented reality and virtual reality could be applied both or either to smart factory and or to smart product, which means that we could admit augmented reality and virtual reality for blue-collar workers in the factory to be trained about some procedures, for instance, assembly procedures. But we could also admit scenarios of remote maintenance of smart product through virtual reality and augmented reality, like the maintenance of a ship, of a helicopter, or of an aircraft, which is more related to the smart product scenario. Again, you will have the scientific and methodological support of the MIDIH partners. You are required to use some of the tools of the MIDIH architecture, and you will be supported by the owners of these tools. And you have, as in the previous case, the possibility to use our two training factories in Milano and Bilbao if you don't have your own experimental facility. And so T3 is in the similar situation of T2. And so we suggest that, we permit that in your proposal, you do not specify the experimental facility where to test and experiment this solution. And in this case, MIDIH is available to propose our two didactic experimental facilities. However, if you already have a very suitable and already configured environment in one experimental facility you provide, this is also acceptable. And so it is not mandatory for you to use Bilbao or Milano facility. You should, however, as in the T2 case, specify exactly in the proposal if you intend to exploit the possibility to test and experiment your stuff in Milano or in Bilbao, or if you have your own experimental facility, and so you will not need to use our two didactic factories. T4 is, I believe this will be the most attractive and appealing topic, and so I expect maybe many applications to come here, because artificial intelligence, machine learning is something which is at stage now, and so I expect several applications in this T4. Again, the MIDIH project is providing open source data in motion and data at rest reference implementation, but it is not focusing neither on artificial intelligence nor on machine learning. And so this could be an interesting complement to what the MIDIH platform is able to provide. It's important that in this case, whenever the case, you also try to model the access to heterogeneous data sets, which maybe are owned by different stakeholders, and so also to envisage which is the data economy contract between the two parties. For instance, if you have a data provider and a data consumer, it would be advisable to use the concept of data sovereignty as defined by our beneficiary industrial data space, and also smart contracts whenever applicable. These are the 4 topics for IT applicants. Another important thing, in the call for applicant, we say for IT SME and manufacturing SME. This is an important criterion for us. And so the focus of the open call is on SMEs, IT SME and manufacturing SME. However, and this maybe is not very well explained in the guide for applicants, it is not a reason for exclusion if the proposal is submitted by a legal entity which is not an SME. And so it is not a reason for exclusion. And so proposals submitted by large organizations, by research organizations, will be evaluated. And so they will not be excluded a priori. They will be evaluated. Of course, in the evaluation criteria, we will give to our panel of evaluators the fact that the proposer is an SME will be appreciated and will be, of course, positively evaluated, rather than a proposal which is not submitted by an SME. However, but this must be very clear, it is not a reason for your proposal to be excluded. And so proposals submitted by large enterprises, by research organizations, associations, or whatever, will be evaluated. The other 4 topics are topics about experimentations, and the criterion we adopted in order to select the domain of this new experimentation is that we aim with this experiment to establish some bridges between MIDIH and other similar initiatives. One first similar initiative we wish really to bridge is Amable. Amable is a sister of MIDIH in the sense that it is a phase 3 innovation action in additive manufacturing. And the basic point here is that we believe that many of the technologies, architectures, solutions that in MIDIH we are using for the domain of CPS and IoT could be also very, very useful in other similar domains, and in the case of additive manufacturing in particular. In particular, when additive and subtractive manufacturing coexist in the same manufacturing environment, and this will be very much appreciated. That is the fact that in this experiment you use and collect data from both traditional subtractive manufacturing systems and from additive manufacturing systems. Again, the presence of additive manufacturing in this experimentation is mandatory. The presence also of traditional subtractive manufacturing technologies is a plus, is an optional, but it is not mandatory. So you could also structure your data in motion, which means industrial IoT, or your industrial analytics solution in the domain of additive manufacturing only. This is perfect. This is perfect. Is perfectly accepted and acceptable. If you also find the way to integrate subtractive traditional manufacturing with additive manufacturing, this will be more appreciated and positively evaluated. The second domain which we are aiming to bridge is the domain of robotics. Then some of you could say, but robotics is a part of Industry 4.0 and it is a part of CPS IoT. This is true, but the point is that in European Commission and in the I4MS also, you have this distinction of several domains, and so CPS IoT, Industry 4.0 technologies have a different reference innovation action rather than robotics. And in robotics, the reference innovation action are called HORSE, ReconCell, and now L4MS. And so it is our interest, so we believe in MIDIH that our technologies, our architectures are not just good in the domain of CPS IoT, but they could also be used in other domains, in other similar domains. And one domain is additive manufacturing, as E1 says. A second domain is robotics, which could be also including autonomous guided vehicles and mobile robotics. A third domain is process industry, and here our aim is to establish a bridge between factories of the future and SPIRE. Again, in the European Commission, discrete manufacturing is the focus, the major focus of factories of the future, while process industry is the major focus of another initiative which is called SPIRE. Again, the same motivation. The motivation is that we believe that what we are developing in MIDI could be also very useful for process industry. And this is something that we could experiment here. Again, to stress one aspect, maybe in the process industry is not so common to have SMEs, and so this could be one case that also large enterprises could submit their application. And as I said, this is not a reason for exclusion. This will be maybe penalized in the evaluation. But again, if no SME are applying to the topic E3, of course, we will also accept good, well-written proposals coming from large enterprises or research organizations. Number 4 in the experimentation topic is logistics and warehouse management, which again is an aspect that we are not directly addressing in MIDI, in our project, but it is something where our technologies, the MIDI technologies, could be used in order to improve the processes, the business processes of the involved industry. Submission tool, Carmen, Ada, could you comment it? Shall I run the slide and you comment?
Hello, can you hear me? I hope so.
Yes, perfectly.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, please, Sergio, if you can run the slide, I really appreciate. Okay, I would like just to give some information on the submission tool to apply for our open call. Many of you, I think, that are already registered on our electronic submission site, midi.emsinovalia.org. Regarding the dimension of the proposal, it can only be submitted as a PDF file with a maximum weight of 5 megas, and we have 10 pages as a maximum. This is not very strict, but my advice is not to exceed this number of pages. There is also a template, as you probably know, that is available on the website and also on the submission tool, where a structure is proposed. And we think that with 10 pages, if you have clear idea about the application and the experiment that you would like to perform, are enough to describe it well. Inside the application there is an help desk and also an email. You can choose which.
May I comment a bit about the 10 pages? So our evaluators will be trained to be flexible in the evaluation, and so if a very important part of the proposal is in page 11, okay, we will ask our evaluators not to be so strict. But if a very important part of the proposal is in page 20 or 30 or 40, then of course the evaluators are allowed to neglect this information.
Well, 30, 40 pages are not appreciated, just to be clear. Around 2 or 3 pages more we can understand, but please try to keep in the 10 pages limit. Next one, please. Regarding the help desk, the email and the form that are on the website are exactly the same. It arrives everything to an email where we can reply. We had some issue with this email in the first month of the call, that's why we reply so late. I apologize for that. So the next one, please. Yes, as you know, there is also a call for evaluators open. You can apply only to one of them. I mean, if you register an email, your email as a evaluator, you cannot register the same email as a proposer. So it's not allowed. The system does not allow this. So on this page you have to choose if you apply as a proposer to register as a proposer. Next slide please, and then provide your data. We need also the VAT registration number that it is needed for the contract later. Here, as you can see, you have the detail of the call. There are already it is an abstract of the guide for applicants. It is important also to keep into account that you have to choose a topic, and only one is allowed. In case you have doubt, because that can be some overlapping between different topics, choose the one that is that fits better with your application or your experiment. If you want, you can mention that you have another topic also. There are something to do, but anyway, Sergio already said the ranking is only one. You have also to choose. In some case, to go on, you need to choose certain keywords. That is mandatory. This is the last. The next slide is the form to submit the proposal at the end of the system. You are required to give a short abstract, keep into account that this is public, and then upload your PDF file, and also to make an abstract of the budget. One thing it is that you can submit before the call closes, not only once but more than once. And the one we are going to evaluate is the last one you submit only, but you have time. There is no possibility to submit other files, just one, so all the information should be included in the technical proposal. I think it is a tool very simple to use, but anyway, if you have some difficulty or problem with the tool, you can write to us and we will help you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Then the proposals will be evaluated by a panel of experts that the MIDIH consortium will appoint. And this process is expected to to happen mostly in July, August, and I believe that we should start the contract preparation in September, so that the project will start 1st of October. All the projects are expected to run for 6 months, and so from October to March 19. Okay, the contract is the usual contract in these cases. Financial support to third party is called in Horizon 2020, and so it is a contract that you sign, and not with the commission, but with a coordinator of the project in this sense. And in this contract you will have several references also to the standard contract Horizon 2020, and of course the description of action of MIDI. Few words about the reference model and architecture. As I said, for both technological and experimentation topics, it is mandatory that you envisage a solution which is on the one side compatible with the reference architecture proposed by MIDI, and on the other side which is implemented by at least one component of the MIDI architecture. And so the overall architecture of your system must be compliant with the reference architecture of MIDI. However, not all the tools, the components that MIDI is developing inside this reference architecture need to be used in your application, in your experimentation technology or manufacturing experimentation. Of course, you cannot just say, okay, we are going to use this component without motivating it and without giving this component a very precise and important and critical role in your application. And so, if 99% of the functions of your experimentation is done without MIDI, this is not acceptable. And so it is not enough that you say, okay, I will use it is not enough that can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Because I had a okay. So it is not enough that you say, I will use this component. You should also motivate why you chose this component and which is the role, which must be a very important role in your architecture and solution. As I said, we have three scenarios: smart factory, smart product, and smart supply chain. And the approach of MIDI is mostly data-driven. So it would be, we are not a big data project. We are a Factories of the Future project. But as a difference, also an evolution with respect to BINC PPS, in MIDI we are stressing more the importance of data and the importance of how flow of data exchange could allow new business models and new business opportunities. And in fact, our reference architecture is depicted here. And so, as a matter of fact, all your experiments, being them technological or manufacturing, they should have one part which is called data in motion, and it is data acquisition from the real world. And we should have another part which is called data at rest. I am in the presentation screen, or not?
No, wait a minute. Mai, please, could you give, or maybe Richard, could you please make Sergio presenter? Because I don't know why there is a problem, but you have the role of...
Okay, sorry, Carmen, I didn't understand what's going on.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I will. Is it okay now?
Yes, it's okay.
Because something happened, but I couldn't recognize what it was. Now I think is okay.
You can see the slides now. Everything is okay.
So maybe I will go up a couple of slides. And so you have these three scenarios: smart factory, smart product, smart supply chain. We have a data-oriented architecture, which is inspired by the Industrial Internet Consortium architecture. And so it would be very appreciated if in your proposal you give a data orientation of your proposal and put the data at the center of your application, which is also confirmed by this reference architecture, which means that we wish you to identify in your application data in motion and data at rest. Data in motion are streams of data coming from the real world, which could be a factory, but could be also a supply chain and could be also a product in its operational life. And then we have data at rest. That is, once we have a data persistence middleware or a data persistence layer, which is in red, then on top of this, you could develop your data at rest, your data analytics application. In all your experiments, both should be present. However, with a different importance, with a different relevance. And so you must have both the data in motion and the data at rest part, but maybe your experiment, your application is 90% on industrial IoT, instantaneous data instantaneous data management, alerts, alarms, early warning to operators, complex event processing, alarms detection, anomaly detection on streams of data. Or on the other side, you could have data coming from the field, but your core activity will be analytics, and will be finding patterns, finding knowledge and information extracted from this raw data. And maybe you could also combine the both in order to have, for instance, optimization of the supply chain, predictive maintenance of a complex product in the field, energy saving, energy optimization in your production plant, zero defect manufacturing, or whatever application you have in mind. So the application you have in mind should have both the data in motion and the data at rest component. However, it is perfectly okay if your application has a center of gravity in either of the two, in data in motion or in data at rest. This is more or less the same diagram showing that in the smart factory, in the industrial shop floor, you have at the bottom line in blue several sources of data, and in the upper level you have several applications, and the point is that you should have at least one data sources, in this case in a smart factory scenario, and one application. In the smart product scenario, you have more or less the same. And so if you apply to smart factory or smart product scenarios, you should have this reference architecture in mind, and you should respect this the flow of data from the bottom of the slide to the up of the slide. The project is based on the alignment of 4 major reference architectures, and one implementation of this reference architecture is FireWare, and in particular its instantiation in industrial domains. And so, as you know, in order to be a powered by FireWare application, you need to use the basic component of any FireWare architecture and the basic protocol which is used in FireWare architecture and context information management. This means the Orion context broker and NGSI as protocol. And so these are the mandatory components that you need to use and to juxtapose in your architecture in order to demonstrate that your application is powered by FireWare. You have also other options because we also admit applications which are not FireWare oriented, which are not powered by FireWare. And we have selected, for instance, the Apache Foundation, and we have mapped the Apache Foundation on the same reference architecture. And so, again, if you say that your application is based on Kafka, is based on Flink, on Spark, on Cassandra, or whatever, this is perfectly admissible, and it is compliant with MIDI. So the concept of architecture, reference architecture here, is more a concept of toolkit. So it is not that you have exactly to implement and use what MIDI project is going to do for Fiat, for the cutting tool use case, or for the industrial data space. It is enough that you demonstrate that you are using these components which are suggested by MIDI, and that you justify, of course, that they are on the critical path for your application. In this case, the typical flow is indicated here, where you have data in motion and data at rest, which are more or less interoperated at the level of brokering and persistence. And so in data in motion, you have field gateways, event processing, brokering, and then visualization. And then you interoperate, for instance, via Lambda architecture with the data at rest, persistency layer, data processing, interoperation, maybe with legacy systems. This is quite appreciated. The fact that your application, your experimentation is also involving existing legacy systems in your company, which means PLM systems, ERP systems, supply chain management system. and then visualization again. In the smart supply chain, it is quite well appreciated the usage of the Industrial Data Space Association reference architecture. You could download it from the Industrial Data Space portal. This is a reference architecture, and so you should be compliant. If you are applying for a smart supply chain scenario, you should be compliant to the principles of this architecture, which means that you should have in your implementation some internal IDS connector, some external IDS connectors, and use some broker and application store. However, the implementation of this reference architecture is up to you, and you should use either the Apache or the fireware components in order to implement this reference architecture. Again, I think that we have these industrial cases. As I said, there is no exclusion if you cover the same application domains of these industrial cases, but it is quite appreciated if you could provide industrial cases in other domains rather than automotive, cutting tools, and logistics in the steel industry. And this is more or less what we have to say. Now we are ready to listen to your questions. Just to listen, not to answer. No, also to answer. Inovalia, am I online? Is everything okay?
Yes, everything okay.
Fine.
Only one thing, if you want, people want to ask something, they have to unmute themselves. But beside this, no problem.
Hello, this is Anna Tovic from ITDI. Can I ask some questions?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, you mentioned about the second call. So can I ask when it will be the second call? Around?
Around June 2019, in a year.
In one year from now, more or less.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to also ask if there is some initial procedure of proposals, or just we sent already the whole proposal to you due to 29th of June.
So you ask if we are going to evaluate draft incomplete proposals.
Yes, like one on two pages of the concept, or just send the whole.
Unfortunately, we will not. And so this is not a service that we are going to provide. And so we will just evaluate fully complete proposals submitted through the tool by the 29th of June.
Okay, thank you so much. And could you repeat about this industry domain? Should we address this three domain or should not? Sorry, I didn't understood correctly, I guess.
Oh, sorry, maybe I was not fully clear. So you could address any industrial domain.
Mm-hmm.
It is preferable, but it is not a reason for exclusion, that you don't address automotive, cutting tools, and steel logistics. So any other domain, food, textile, aeronautics, chemistry, pharma, whatever is perfectly okay.
And this 3 because the project already deals with that, yes?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Could you tell us a little bit more about those testing facilities in Bilbao and Milano? Or where we can find more information about those facilities? The question is what kind of division of industry that they are meant to simulate?
Yes, now I don't remember exactly, Carmen, which material we published for describing the 2 facilities. Do you have some?
We have a description of the facilities of the competence center. Anyway, replying to your question, we have in Bilbao we have the infrastructure available, especially for zero defect manufacturing and something for predictive maintenance. But anyway, as also explained before, it is something that is offered, and we should see after deciding after we have the winners, if the application and the experiments that the winners propose fit with the infrastructure that is available. But anyway, if you have your infrastructures for testing the application, this is perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, one thing, maybe, Carmen, we should try to publish some more documentation about the 2. For Politecnico Milano, it is a 7-station production system in which you basically assemble a fake mobile phone. And so you start from the different pieces, you make the holes, you put together the board and all the other components of a fake mobile phone, and in the end you have this mobile phone assembled. It is based on a Festo didactic factory, and the description of the 7-station, I really thought that it was already online, but we will provide it as soon as possible. And from a software, they also provide OPC UA server interfaces. So whoever has an OPC UA agent or reader or client could read the data from this facility. But I believe that yes, Carmen, we should publish something more about these 2 facilities. Okay, by tomorrow I will upload some more information about the didactic factories.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you.
Thanks to you. I have a question from in the chat that I read. If a project or projects are selected, funded in a specific MIDIH topic in the first call, is this MIDIH topic then excluded from the next call in 2019? This is from Paragon.
Not automatically. We need really to evaluate the distribution of the winning proposals in the different topics. We have also to evaluate whether, for instance, in 1 year time, new hot topics will come, or new hot topics will be suggested by our experimentations in the project, or by the commission, or by whoever. So it is there is really nothing automatic. So we cannot say anything certain of this.
Okay, may I ask you? Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm quite new to this all application forms. But my question is, in 2.1 technological topics, we have like 4 topics, and after that we have like smart factory, smart product, and smart supply chain. And it says that experimentation must cover at least one of these, but technological topics also have to cover one of this: smart factory, smart product, and smart supply chain. Is it right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But it is quite easy to classify an experimentation in these 3 broad categories, because these are quite broad. So I don't think that you will have problems in classifying your application as a smart factory, smart product, or smart supply chain. The only point is that maybe one application could cover 2 or even all the 3.
Yes.
The point is that you should select a
most
center of gravity.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just 2 questions regarding the project. Who will be the owner of the IP related to the project? It will belong to the SME, or it will be shared by the Innovali organization, the case study, and the company that was submitting the project?
Okay, good question. I forgot to say something about it.
I think it's the main. If there are giant, like anything, I doesn't matter if you are. I mean,
Sorry, Simon, but we have some problem with your audio. We cannot. I think the question is clear, but anyway, you can. If you want to add something, you can add. You can write maybe, because it's very bad audio.
So by default, the owner of the results is the proposer. And so this is the general rule. That's why I also said that the support of MIDIH beneficiary to the experimentation is external. It is not internal. So it is not included in the 60K budget you are going to provide, which means that whatever you do in your project and including in the 60K budget, this belongs to you. So you are the owner of it. This I said by default. Then, of course, if your application, your experimentation cannot be separated or isolated, for instance, from our didactic factories or from our experimental facilities, then we need, of course, to discuss it and to find an agreement. But the general rule is that whatever you develop in this project, this belongs to you.
One question: do we have to show with a letter of interest or something like that the relationship that we have with a specific case study where we will do the experimentation of our prototype or our application and so on?
Sorry, but I couldn't hear you very well.
Sergio, I will write you on the chat to everyone. Could we?
Okay. If so, this is something which could, so a letter of intent from the factories or experimental facilities is not mandatory. It is, of course, something that the evaluators will appreciate and will positively evaluate, because you should really give evidence to the evaluators that you have the data and that you have the factory, in this case, where you are going to experiment it. As many documents, as many materials you could produce certifying this fact that you are able to do what you write in your proposal is, of course, more than welcome. However, there is no obligation for you to provide any additional letter of intent.
Sergio, we have another question was sent to me.
Wait.
Someone asked for the funding rate.
Okay.
Well, the funding rate is 70% for organization, unless you are a no-profit organization. In that case, is 100%. It is. We follow the rule of H2020. Then another one asks if the application should be by only one entity or a small consortium. We want only single applicants' proposal are accepted, no consortium.
Yeah, the point is if for fully exploiting your experimentation, your application, you need the collaboration of other parties. You could mention it in your proposal, but the proposal will be just submitted by one single legal entity. The contract will be signed between this legal entity and the coordinator, and the payments will be done to just this single legal entity, as well as all the justification of costs must come from just this single legal entity. So, typical example, if this SME has an external service contract with the university, you should mention it in the proposal. However, all the contractual topics between the legal entity and MIDIH will not include this university. So we are not allowing a second cascade funding. And so this is just a first cascade funding. And so we are not allowing subcontracting or other sub contracts between the proposer and any other legal entities behind it. The evaluation committee is coming from the industrial partners. No, the evaluation committee is made of external experts, and so proposals will not be evaluated by MIDIH. beneficiaries. After the evaluation by the evaluators, of course, we will hold a meeting between the evaluators and the work package leaders of MIDIH, and of course we will agree on the final ranking. But the evaluation activity is done by independent experts. That's why, as Carmen said, you find the possibility for you to register as an evaluator. And so you have seen that in the registration tool you have, yes, I want to register as a proposer, or I want to register as an evaluator. Carmen said that the same mail address cannot be both an evaluator and a proposer. I would say that the same identity cannot be both evaluator and proposer, also if you use a different mail address. And also for conflict of interest, if you have any direct interest in one of the proposals, please refrain from applying as evaluator. Because otherwise, if we discover it in advance, okay, we will exclude you from the evaluators. If we discover it afterwards, this could invalidate the whole procedure, and this could be a serious problem for all of us. And so I warmly invite you that if you are intending to submit a proposal, please do not apply as evaluator.
There is also another question. The guide for applicants also says that the solution has to complement existing MIDIH solution. Can you please elaborate more on the meaning of complementing functionalities around the MIDIH reference architecture?
Yes. The point is that, you know, MIDIH just started 1st of October last year. And so this constraint is maybe more applicable for the second open call. For the first open call, of course, the MIDIH solutions are those reference architecture and components that I showed you before. So we still don't have complete MIDIH solutions, and we will develop them for Fiat, for the cutting tool, and for the logistic use case. So this constraint from a technical viewpoint is not as valid as in the second open call. So this first open call is less relevant. And it also applies to the industrial domains, as I said before. In any case, and so complementing functionality is something that is not fully tangible, indeed. So we do not expect that you will develop something which is completely identical to what we are going to do for one of our industrial. So we could say that the selection of the technological topics and the selection of experimentation topics are already implementing this complementarity. So you should not worry about being complementary to anything. We selected these 4 technological topics because they are complementary to what we are going to do in the technological domain, and as well in the 4 application domain: additive manufacturing, process industry, robotics, is the same. So this is not something that should worry you.
don't know if there are other questions. I understand that maybe there are no more in chat. Neither.
Okay.
Yes, there is another one.
Okay.
Question about the 9 competence center. Do we need to contact them when we prepare the proposal, or we describe in the proposal which CC we have selected?
Option 2. And again, this is also subject to negotiation, because maybe you misunderstood the real, or we didn't explain very well, the real smart specialization of each competence center. In the proposal, you say that your domain, your technology should receive support from competence center number 5. Then, during the negotiation, we could also discover that by deeply analyzing your proposal, that it is maybe competence center number 6, the most suitable for you, and then we will agree together. So this will not be a unilateral move, but we will agree together that it is not anymore CC5, but it is CC6. And so also this part, I will not be worried about this.
Hello, can I ask one question? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you said that we need to use the mandatory components from freeware or Apache reference architecture, but not all, the selected ones, or components from these reference architectures?
A convenient subset you deem necessary to implement your stuff.
Okay, so not necessarily all of them.
No, absolutely.
Just to be sure.
40 components. No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, what is the situation? No, okay, there is another one. Okay. What is the situation if, for example, a prior developed digital twin model is a model of a MIDIH partner production line?
Excuse me, please repeat the question because we can't see it.
Okay. So there is a written question saying, you could go to the chat. What is the situation if, for example, a prior developed digital twin model is a model of a MIDIH partner production line? Is a submission possible? So you say that you already have a digital twin of any Fiat or Tivoli Neco or industrial data space ThyssenKrupp. I think it is a very rare case. I don't think that it will happen. In any way, in the proposal, in the experimentation, the rule of background and foreground is the same as in any proposal. And so you should clearly state what is the background and what is the foreground, which means that in your experimentation you should evolve, improve, extend the existing model. Doesn't matter if it refers to any of the 3 MIDIH industrial partners. So submission is possible. Where we can find the components which we must use. Maybe I was not clear. on that. And so you have a bucket of suggested components, which are the components of the FireWare architecture and of the Apache architecture. Inside this bucket of components, you should select as many components as they are needed by your application. And so there are not components that you must use, but you have to select, to pick up from this bucket the components that are useful for your case. I just said one thing. If you use, for instance, FireWare, just Wild Cloud for visualization, this is not a powered by FireWare application. And so what I said, it was that if you claim that your experiment is powered by FireWare, you should have mandatorily the contest broker, the Orion contest broker of FireWare in your architecture. This is the only must. If, of course, you choose the FireWare architecture, because if you choose Kafka, Flink, Spark, or whatever, then you are not powered by FireWare, but this is perfectly admissible. Did I answer Mr. Jorma Intika? Mr. or Mrs. Sorry. So, any other question?
Yes, Jorma Hintika is here. Did you have additional question to me?
No, I just asked you if I answered your questions.
Okay, that was fine.
So maybe another question. You mentioned focus is relevant actually. So choosing the right topic. So what if we or I basically I think I have one thing where I hit basically 3 topics and I'm really quite unsure which one to choose. Do you consult on these kind of decisions somehow? I don't know.
Could you repeat, please, because I couldn't get properly.
So let's say I have a robot in a warehouse management, which could also work in digital twin stuff and so on. So just hitting one of these topics.
Is the center of gravity is the same criterion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
it's up to you. We cannot say anything.
Okay. Then we'll think about it. Thanks.
So, any more? Carmen, could you please count how many people are connected now?
Let me see. If I'm not wrong, there are 30 people.
Okay. So shall we make an exercise? So now the webinar is over, and so I thank you so much, all of you, for your attendance. But please go out from the webinar just those who do not have the intention of submit a proposal. Those who have the intention of submit a proposal, please remain connected. Okay, good. I don't hear any other beep. So I counted 6 or 7 beeps. Is correct, Carmen?
Well, since one of the consortium is also inside, I was counting. Let me see one moment.
No, the consortium, the MIDIH consortium could leave the webinar now.
No, 17. I count 17.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much for your attendance, and there is a Q&A facility in the submission tool, and so I wish you good luck, and I hope really to meet you in person at the kickoff meeting of the winners of MIDIH Open Call 1. Thank you again.